Okay, so today I just wanted to deep dive into API gateway. So API gateways, we've most of the time heard about it. It's one of since the era of say microservices, API gateway has been a thing in terms of like distributing this request to the services available for them. So basically, you don't want your client to know the internal workings of your system or your architecture. Or even if you want a situation where if you change your architecture in a certain way, you don't want to now have to tell the clients, oh, change this or change that, or change this or change that. So without this API gateway, the services are kind of tightly coupled together, meaning that if you change something in your architecture, then the client that's calling this service, this application, or will have to also change their own structure as well. So most of the times you don't want that tight coupling, right? So you basically just use like an API gateway. An API gateway basically is a server, right? But it's the first contact. So your request. Actually, you guys, I stole this diagram from was it a hello interview? So, but still, it passes the point. Yeah. So your client hits this API gateway, and then they don't know about these other services. All they know is that they're calling the message, they're calling reviews, they're calling businesses. They don't know who's going to handle it. All they know is that they send a request and they get a response. That's all they need to know. So basically encapsulation, you're trying to or sorry, when I say abstraction, one of the two. I think I put encapsulation. So yeah, encapsulating the service, and then the other side, the caller doesn't need to know the inner workings or the intricacies of the system. They call it, they get a response, and that's all that matters. Right. So just think of it like when you go to a counter or a receptionist. You go to booking a hotel or receptionist. You go there. You say you book a room. They handle the payment. They handle everything. You don't need to start going to the payment system and then the booking system and then the receptionist system and then the key holding. It's just a lot. So you just basically go to one place and the person there handles the rest of the things, right? So yeah, most major thing the API gateway does is routing to correct services. So it takes this request, reviews, message, business, takes this paths or URLs, and then maps them to the correct server. Excuse me, that will handle it. So, and that thing also that you can now put some other responsibilities on API gateway so that if they don't meet the standard responses, there is no need to take them to the other services, right? You don't want it's one situation where if the request is not valid, you don't want to you start calling, you still pass it down to the other services. You just fill the request right at that point, send them back an error message and say, sorry, this request did not pass. Try again with a valid request. So it also can be used for to validate request. It can be used to for authentication. So that's supposed to be auth. No, I put auth. Let's just change that a bit. So it's can use for authentication. It can also be used for rate limiting in terms of you don't want so many requests hitting the server at a particular time so that to remove bots and to for security purposes so that people are not calling your system so many times searching for particular information like brute force attack or something like that. So you want to eliminate those kind of attacks and generally just bots trying to overwhelm the system. So yeah, rate limiting, you say 10 requests per minute, 100 requests per minute, however you decide that. So how it works, let's go through this thing. A process, your client goes to the API gateway, it validates the request, it handles authentication, rate limiting, and so many other things you can configure for it. Then it routes to the correct service, either business, either messaging review. Then once it gets a response from these services, it takes this request or response and maps it in a way that the client understands. So basically, these services or servers don't need to know about the client. So it's just API gateway they're interacting with. So they can interact in whatever form is best for them, gRPC, event driven application, architecture, whatever is best at that time, right? And then the client doesn't need to know about that. All the client needs to know is that the API gateway gives the client the response back in the way that they should view it, right? So most of the time, this is how the configuration is. So you have this route, you have the paths and the services that handle them. It's going to handle them usually on different ports and different services. So yeah, that is probably not very detailed on API gateway, but I think that's just it. So next, I'm going to probably look at the intricacies of the rate limiting. Yeah, we know the rate limiting limits request, but how does it work? All right, so that's it for today, guys. See you in the next video. Bye.